Hey, Larken Rose here. I wonder how many people still imagine that public opinion is the result of different ideas, different opinions, different voices, different thoughts, all competing in the open, and then the general public watches and hears both sides of everything and then makes up their mind about what they're going to think about it, because that has almost nothing to do with reality and almost nothing to do with how people reach their beliefs and their conclusions. And even though this will sound like a flying leap to something irrelevant, I've been a musician for a gazillion years, and it's always annoyed me that the most popular music, not quite without exception, but pretty often the most popular music is crap. And there are millions and millions of musicians way better, way more original, way more creative, way more talented than whoever you're hearing on the radio at any given moment. Again, there are some exceptions. There are some people with actual talent who make it to the radio. But it's because it's not like everybody's stuff is out there and then the general public checks out all of it and decides, yeah, we really like this one. No, you really like that one because record companies cranked $1 zillion into making that hit you in the face 500 times in a row until it got stuck in your head, and it's some catchy piece of crap, but it's catchy enough that you remember it, and then people request it and they buy the album, and yeah, they make a bunch of money, never mind that it was empty, soulless garbage. Anyway, the topic of this video isn't supposed to be what a snooty musical elitist I am, even though I am, but it relates because if people don't ever hear your stuff, if you're a musician, doesn't really matter how good it is if your goal is to get successful and get it out there and get famous and all that stuff. And the same is true of thoughts and opinions. Usually what wins out is whatever had the best promotion and distribution plan, and it has almost nothing to do whether the ideas were worth anything. There's nothing to do with that. And you can see that if you can go back hundreds of years and read the works of Voltaire and Alexis de Tocqueville, and it goes back kind of forever, and Etienne de la Boétie. That was forever ago. And then Lysander Spooner and Frederick Bastiat. These brilliant ideas. Did somebody else have a better idea that people listened to both of them carefully and then said, nope, we choose enslavement and subjugation and authoritarian lunacy? No, they just had brilliant ideas that never got in front of the vast majority of people, and so they didn't really make a difference. Now, there have been exceptions. Once again, I'm going to mention Thomas Paine and his pamphlet Common Sense, that managed to get in front of a huge number of people back when technology made it really hard to do that. But that happened, and then there was a revolution as a result. And you can watch the philosophical trends and how they follow propaganda. They don't follow thought. They don't follow having an exchange of ideas. In fact, these days it's sort of weird because you can have people believing in freedom to one degree or another, trying to have a debate with the socialists and the Marxists, and it's not even a debate. It's not even a calm exchange of ideas. It's an emotional tantrum. You're racist and a Nazi and we're not going to listen to you. That's the debate from the left now on almost everything. And the right wing of statism, they're still wrong. They're still statists, but they try to actually have an argument for most of it. I mean, they're total hypocrites in a zillion different ways, as I've talked about before. But there isn't a debate. There's just the emotional propaganda. That's not an exchange of ideas. That's not a competition of ideas. And so you have Hollywood, now we're having a writer's strike at Hollywood. It's been going on for a while. I think it's still happening. I pay so little attention, I wouldn't even know if it ended by now. And the vast majority of stuff I see coming out of Hollywood is just crap. I think the average person on the street could write better than that, more interesting, original things. It's just crap, but it's crap backed by a lot of money. Disney cranks out crap backed by a lot of money. All the huge studios have lots of money to crank out crap, so they can hire crappy writers to write boring cookie cutter crap, throw hundreds of millions of dollars into making it and make it look as snazzy as possible. Wow, you snazzied up your crap really well. And that's what people are going to see. People go to a theater and go, what's showing? They don't say, what has been created by all of the people out there able to create stuff? Now, the cool thing is that technology and the expense of technology going down has made it so that now apparently the two top films right now, two top grossing films at this very moment, as far as I know, are Insidious 312, however many Insidiouses they're up to. I think they're all independent. And Sound of Freedom was independent. I mean, it bounced around all over the place, and it's a weird story in and of itself. But that is them having to play against hundreds of millions of dollars of people pushing stupid ideas. And it's sad and pathetic, but it's just the reality that if you don't have promotion or a way to get ideas to more people, it doesn't matter how good your ideas are. And I've pointed this out before about the philosophers. You know, you can go back a zillion years and, like, Albert J. Nock, Our Enemy of the State, an awesome book. How many people know about it? Well, pretty many in the freedom movement and almost nobody else. Because it didn't get anywhere. So you had a brilliant ideas and very well written and all that. And, there's 100 other examples going back centuries, and the vast majority of people have never heard that. What they've heard is the Marxist BS barfed out by Hollywood and the mainstream media and all the authoritarian collectivist crap coming out of DC and all the state governments, left and right, because they're all authoritarian collectivist control freak jackasses. That's what they hear. That's what they're exposed to. So that's all they know. Like, the number of people even capable of hearing an idea and then trying to fabricate in their own mind a conflicting idea. Like, well, what might be some arguments against this? That's almost nobody. If they don't hear somebody else making a counter argument, it never occurs to them that there is one. Sadly, that's most people. And if the people with the counter argument focus all their time and effort on making the perfect argument, but don't get it in front of anybody, doesn't make any difference. It matters what the people see and hear. It doesn't matter whose ideas are better. And if they see and hear crappy ideas over and over again and they're surrounded, with that constantly, the peer pressure thing happens. Oh, I guess we all believe this. I guess we all believe government should care for the poor. I guess that didn't used to be a thing. People didn't used to fall for that socialist crap. And for a while, people in America sort of understood why that leads to disaster. Like, we used to kind of have a clue why socialism and communism became such catastrophes in China and Soviet Union. And now a bunch of young idiots in the U.S. are like, yay, communism, they just didn't do it right. Let's try it again. Have a central authority that violently decides what everybody needs. Won't that just be heaven on earth? No, and you're stupid. And when somebody writes a book like, I forget which one. It's not Hazlitt. Is it Mises? Wrote the book called Socialism. It's like this thick. Huge, massive treatise. Brilliant. Nobody's read it. I mean, a few freedom people have read it, but they already understood that anyway. Now they just understand it better. The rest of the world doesn't know. And so having to focus on getting the word in front of the people who don't know it yet is something that pro-freedom people have been kind of bad at for, like, all of history. Kind of. And not all of them. I'm generalizing a bit. But you have this trail of this brilliant thought and these brilliant treatises, like Discourse on Voluntary Servitude by Etienne de la Boétie. It could be written today. I mean, it would be written in French, so it has to be translated. It could be written today. It's that relevant and accurate and brilliant from, I forget how many hundreds of years ago he was. It was 1600s, I think. This was forever ago. And the vast majority of people have no idea. What? And that's the one that ends with, I do not ask that you put your hands on the tyrant to topple him over, but just remove support. and watch the Colossus fall over under his own weight. I just butchered that, but you probably recognize what I'm talking about. If you're one of those weird freedom people, if you're anybody else, you're like, what are you talking about? I've never heard that before in my life. So what people hear, what gets put in front of them, is a huge factor that most people busy philosophizing don't focus on, because they're busy making the perfect argument and they don't bother to do the things that make that land in front of people who can actually hear it. And it's sad, because like, if it would be one thing if humanity was doing things this stupid because nobody had thought of anything better, but the fact that we're still doing things this stupid when brilliant minds thought of stuff that's way better hundreds of years ago. And ever since then, there have been the little fringe weirdos actually explaining the concepts of self-ownership and, you know, whether they use that term or not. And the vast majority of the world never heard about it. They didn't know it was a thing. So the whole concept of outreach is something that, unfortunately, still today, most freedom people are kind of bad at. Especially because they get frustrated with, oh, I can't get through to anybody. You know, I've talked about that a million times, and that's why we have the Candles in the Dark program. But when there is an idea and lots of pro-freedom people look at it and go, yeah, that's awesome. Okay, that's nice, but if you were already pro-freedom and then you read an article or you saw a video or you watched a movie and saw that's awesome, okay, cool, I'm glad you enjoyed it. That didn't make any stinking difference to the world. Like, you had some fun and went rah, rah, rah. Okay. Did it change the world? Because all the Hollywood crap has changed the world, despite the fact that their ideas are just hypocritical, insane, elitist, bogus, authoritarian, contradictory crap. Their ideas have changed the world because they managed to get it in front of lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people over and over and over and over and over again until it sinks in, whether the idea is stupid in their case or actually like moral and rational and stuff. So it's a little bit frustrating watching some of the think tanks and some of these million-page treatises on like Austrian economics. It's like, that's cool, I'm glad somebody did that, but how is that changing the world? The only people whose eyes are aimed at that are the people who already agree with that. And that isn't really doing anything to change the world. You can be right, and the people who are already pro-freedom can learn a little bit more and get a little bit clearer in their head about how things work and stuff. But the reason my agenda always keeps it dumbed down to a level that a lot of people just think I must just kind of be stupid, because I put it in very simple terms. I use very simple vocabulary. I spell it out so any idiot should be able to understand it. And a lot of people think, wow, you're obviously not as sophisticated and as wise as... No, I'm doing that on purpose. I could sound all hoity-toity if I wanted to. What would the point of that be? To impress the 3 people who might pay attention who are already on the same side as me anyway? It doesn't really help. We need to put it into the language of normie speak. And so, you know, as an obvious example of something coming up, the Jones Plantation is going to go public on July 29th online. We're going to have an event there where there's a director and I have a chat before and afterwards, and some other people will be in on it. I don't even know. So people can have like watch parties. So you sign up for that. Pretty soon I'll have the link so people can sign up for that and have a big party everywhere. And not just with the people who already agree with you. Bring in the people who don't and see what they think. And we've already gotten little glimpses of that, because at both screenings there was a heavy bias in favor of people who were already pro-freedom, but there were some people who weren't, who came along, didn't know what to expect, had never heard it before, and they were impressed, and they thought, wow, that was thought-provoking, and that was cool, and like, none of them really had anything negative to say. It wasn't like, I'm offended by this, I'm walking out. It makes people think. But it doesn't make people think if they don't see it. And so, you know, when you look at, you know, the news about this movie just came out, they spent this many $100 million to make it, and this many $100 million to promote it. Like, it already exists, but it doesn't promote itself. And if nobody sees it, who cares? And so the budget of a Hollywood movie is often, like, the promotion worldwide often ends up being as expensive as making the thing, which is ridiculous because they already take hundreds of millions of dollars to make a thing. And we don't have that. Like our production budget was $150,000 to make a movie. And even if you've seen the trailer, like a lot of people have said, "What, you made that with $150K? Like not million, thousand, right? Yep, thousand." And it looks really dang good, but it only makes a difference if it gets in front of people. And so one of the things, before I forget, one of the things we're asking now is for any of you who have already seen it, like you were at the Phoenix or the New Hampshire, the Pork Fest screening of it, if you want to give a little video testimonial of what you thought about it, just like a minute long, doesn't even have to be that long. It can be on video or you can have it be text if you don't want your face on video. And if you're going to do this, please let us know, like say in the video that we're allowed to use it to show other people, use it in promotions and stuff. Because when the people who make something, like an album, a painting, a movie, whatever, when they say, it's really great, like, well, you're going to say that you made the thing. So that's why testimonials are a thing. Because if people who didn't make it say, well, this is actually pretty cool, like that means way more than the people who own the thing saying it's really cool. That's why there's Yelp reviews and reviews under everything under the sun. Okay, the company wants me to like it, but what do all the people who bought it think about it? And so if you want to give a review, I'm going to stick my email address. It's just larken@larkenrose.com. If you want to make a short little video thing that we can use, or a text thing if you don't prefer video. And because we are going to do a promotion campaign with what we have, which is almost nothing. Partly that's like the promotion company gets a cut of the proceeds of the sales as we go along, because we don't have $300 million. We don't have $300 to actually run the campaign. But what we do have, if you do it, is a whole bunch of people who are already on our side, and who, I know a bunch of them have already, when they saw the movie, said, wow, I really want this to get out there. I want other people to see it. Well, step one for me is get all the people who are already on our side to see it July 29th when it comes out and it's online. And then people will be able to buy it online. You can reserve for the event, but you can also just reserve the movie for like $9.99 or whatever it is. So that as soon as it's out, you have it. Because I think it speaks for itself. And I know it does because a bunch of people have told me this. A bunch of people who believe in freedom, when they see it, they go, yes, I want this to be in front of a lot of eyes. So we don't have the budget, we don't have the Hollywood budget to promote it, but we do have lots of you people who, if you help to get it in front of normal people, right now is the best opportunity to do that. Because right now you have people with podcasts, like if Joe Rogan watched this movie, he would stinking mention it. If Russell Brand watched it, he would mention it. If Jimmy Dore watched it, he would mention it. Like, if any of those people with huge audiences watch the thing, they're going to mention it because they're going to find it interesting. They're going to find it thought-provoking. Doesn't mean they're instantly going to turn into voluntarists, because it doesn't even really get into that. It doesn't even explain that side of things. But if it becomes part of the public discussion, like my last video talked about, then it gets in front of people and then it can have an impact. And so Andrew, the director, and myself, really want to know what the pro-freedom crowd thinks of it, because we want you guys to like it. We want you to go, rah, 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 that was awesome. And a bunch of you who saw it already said that. But we don't want you to stop at that was awesome. We want you to go from that was awesome to I want the whole world to see this. And then arranging screenings and pestering podcasters to like have a look at it, because we're going to be sending them a link to watch the movie to see if they want to talk about it and do interviews or just mention it on their own or whatever. But I'm really dang proud of this thing. Again, most of it was not my work. I wrote the thing, but reading a script is pretty damn boring. Compared to watching an actual movie when it's made into real life. Like, there's people bringing it to life. So I didn't do any of that. I just wrote the script. So what Andrew and the whole cast and the whole crew, what they did was just awesome, especially for the budget we had. But that awesomeness, now we have this little collection of zeros and ones that can portray this awesomeness. For those who don't know, that's how digital things are recorded. It's all zeros and ones. But it needs to get in front of people to have an impact. And because of the way podcasts are now, that's suddenly way more possible than not very long ago, where you can't get a big audience if you don't have $100 million to spend on marketing and promotion and all that. Well, now, if the right person talks to the right person, and we're going to start with a bunch of people we already know and we know personally and have connections and do interviews there, and then see if we can climb the ladder and get the attention of people with bigger voices who I think if they see it are going to go, whoa, this is kind of amazing. People ought to see this. And so, yeah, if you want to make a little, if you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, then you have to twiddle your thumbs for a couple more weeks, and then it'll be out on July 29th. If you have seen it, if you were at the Phoenix or New Hampshire screenings and want to make a little testimonial saying what you thought of it, that would be awesome. And if you can send that to me at larkenrose.com, you can also do it by text if you want, then that helps us show to the rest of the world this is worth your time. Because there's a whole lot of crap that comes out of Hollywood that isn't worth anybody's time. It's just sort of a way to pass the time and spend too much to sit in the theater and eat overpriced popcorn and watch boring cookie cutter crap. This isn't that. This is fundamentally, like, substantially different than anything you will ever see come out of Hollywood. And I'm really dang proud of it, but now, like, we can't on our own make this land in front of everybody. We're doing what we can, but this is where we need you guys to help. And step one of that is see it yourself. I don't want you promoting it if you don't think it's worth promoting. I want you to watch it, and then if you think it's crap, go, whatever. But if you go, wow, that was pretty impactful, I want people to see it, then I want you to help. But that's sort of the key to it. Until you see it, you don't know what it is either. Like, you can have your guesses and assumptions, and I love how many people, even just with the trailer, said, whoa, this is way better than I expected. Like, it looks way more professional than I expected. And cool. Like, but if you don't know what to expect, that's perfectly fair for you to, like, not want to promote it. You don't know what it is yet. Go see it. See what it is. And see if you think, imagine the whole world watching that movie. And if you think that would have a positive impact, I sure as hell think that. But if you think that, then do what you can to help us get it out there. And that can be free. That can just be dropping comments here and mentioning it to people. And, oh, I know somebody who has this, podcast with this big an audience, and make it become part of the discussion. And instead of us constantly, like, being in a little corner with brilliant ideas that the rest of the world isn't hearing about, let's get it out to the rest of the world. So anyway, I will stop babbling about it. But if you want to do a testimonial, let me know at larkenrose.com if you've seen it. And if you haven't seen it, in a couple weeks, you will be able to see it online. Yeehaw.